Hey everyone, James here and welcome to Talk TCG, and today we're going to be comparing websites like TheGameCrafter to other platforms like the Kickstarter and other hands-on strategies. I've got my piece of paper with all my notes, so let's get started. So a lot of us already know Kickstarter. It's more of a household name compared to something like TheGameCrafter. So why on earth would you pick TheGameCrafter? So I'm not saying that one is better than the other. Today is really just about exploring the difference between the two platforms to find out which one is the best fit for you. So one of the big differences between Kickstarter and TheGameCrafter is that Kickstarter is a bigger platform. It pulls in a massive audience with, like what we said before, it is a more household name compared to TheGameCrafter. But with that larger crowd, you are getting a more diversified crowd. Not everybody is coming to look for a new game. And this is something that you have to keep in mind if you were thinking about starting your very own TCG or board game or anything like that on the Kickstarter. The bigger crowd is nice, but the right crowd is better. When you are advertising on the GameCrafter, 100% of that crowd has the potential to be a new fan of your game. That is why they are there. They are on that website to find games. So by comparing the two platforms like that, it's really quality over quantity, I would say. But at the same time, if you catch the right niche audience on the Kickstarter, you have the potential for a huge project. And the people who are searching for things on Kickstarter are people with money that are willing to back you. That is why they are searching there. Which brings me on to the next point of the two projects. Kickstarter is there to help you produce games from scratch, where the GameCrafter is offering you the tools to create your game if you already have the assets ready. This is where the two are very different, and maybe it is seen a little bit controversial comparing the two because it really is apples to oranges. But the reason I'm doing this video today is because somebody on Discord messaged me and actually asking why I went through the GameCrafter instead of through something like Kickstarter, because they are a new TCG maker and they were looking for the answers. You know, they want to know which path is the right path. So I thought, you know what, that is an excellent idea for a video, so I wanted to shine some more light on it today. So yes, the two are very different because one requires you to get crowdfunding to then produce the games yourself, where the other one you can upload the assets and they will produce and distribute the games for you. This is where it is the most different between the two. Now I do apologize if it sounds like I'm about to talk down to you, but I really need to break down the basics for people out there who may not be aware. Now a lot of businesses work off buying things cheaply by bulk buying, and that is essentially what you have to do when you're creating your own game. You will have to bulk buy, say, at least 500. I've got a website up here. It's called makeplayingcards.com, and it gives an example of what you can bulk buy and how much cheaper it will be the more that you purchase. Now if you are taking on the responsibility of bulk ordering that product, storage of that product, and then distribution of that product, that is a lot of time, effort and risk put on your part. It is a lot of money that you have to put down to then order the product cheap enough and then have the space to store it, to then go on to sell it in hopes of making your money back. Now the GameCrafter offers something a little bit different. Yes, the product is a little bit more expensive this way because it is a print to demand site. Now if people don't know what a print to demand site is, it means if you make an order for that product, they will print that order and send it to you. Print to demand, very simple. Now for what Richard and I have set up on the GameCrafter for Shard TCG, we make just over $1 per pack sold, and that is 100% passive. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to look on a computer and fill in orders. We don't have to use any of our personal space for storage, which you may also have to check in with your local government because you may be classed as operating a business within your home, and you may not be allowed to do that depending on the rules that are set. So make sure you do your research with that, because you could get into a bit of trouble if you've got a tattletale as a neighbour. So yes, the advantage is the GameCrafter allows you to create something and keep it passive. It is always being distributed and we have nothing to do with that. the GameCrafter handle that side of things. The disadvantage is the product is a little bit more expensive. But when we look at the bulk orders, like I was talking about before, you're going to have to order about 250 packs from this other site before you're getting to a somewhat reasonable price. But then when you're including postage that you're going to have to send on top of that, when you're potentially posting to somewhere around the world, because let's admit it, we live on the World Wide Web right now. We are connected. People from other countries are going to want your product if they see it, which is great because you have the largest audience you could potentially have. That is fantastic. But really hurts when you have to stick those stamps on it. So really, when you're looking at the product price of a booster pack, to be profitable and send it anywhere around the world, you're gonna have to be bulk buying this product in the thousands. We're talking at least the 2,500 range, which a little bit over that will cost you over $5,000. And then of course on top of that, you're gonna have to have storage, like I've already said. If you can't operate that from your home, or if you're not sneaky enough to operate it from your home, then you're going to have to pay somewhere else for storage. And then of course the postage on top of that. Of course, yes, you could order a smaller bulk pack and then sell it for more, but then you're missing out on potential fans. You know, you can price people out, which is something you don't want to do. If I could sell these booster packs for a penny a card, that would be fantastic. I would do that. If it cost me half a pence per card, what would stop me from doing that? That's fantastic, you know. But unfortunately that is not the reality, which is a shame because we'd have a lot more people playing our card game. So for us, with Rich and me, we found it better to go with the GameCrafter, keep it passive, because the most important thing is it is a hobby. We have kept it a hobby. If you are more interested in creating a business, then yes, maybe you want to go along the lines of a Kickstarter if you think you've got a product that can really go the distance. But for us, this was our first ever TCG. We knew the risks, we knew we had the inexperience in that. We didn't want to take on the Kickstarter because I'm not sure about you out there, but I always feel like the Kickstarter, that taking the money before you can give anything, it's an added pressure to deliver, and it really is. When we went more passive, it still took a couple of years, but we finally got it out there eventually. It got put on the GameCrafter, and then people had the choice to buy it. It was there, it was offered to them. They didn't have to wait. We weren't receiving messages every month going, where's the product? Are you up to date? Is this even going to get finished? Because honestly, we wouldn't have been 100% sure ourselves. Now, when momentum was good, things are good, but as you know, things can take a downturn, you know, things in your life can get in the way, and then it's a concern, it becomes a burden. Now, another thing I want to point out with the Kickstarter is they have an all or nothing funding. So if you request certain funds, say that you put a Kickstarter up for $5,000 because you want that 2,500 packs and then a little bit extra just to start your postage, and then when the money starts coming in, then you'll pay the rest with the excess from that. And that'll be fantastic that way. You don't get any of that money until you hit that 5,000 target. And that is also an added pressure because you can see this starting to climb. Imagine if you only get to $4,000, you think, well, I could do it with $4,000. Why didn't you set it to $4,000 then? Well, because the $5,000 would have been safer. But now you get nothing. It's an all or nothing situation. Yes, you could start with the $4,000 and run it a little bit more expensive, but ideally you want the $5,000. But if you set it at $4,000 and you hit that very easily, then you would have said, oh, I wish I went for the $5,000. So it's very difficult to predict because you have to know how big of a project this is going to be, how much of an audience you're going to pull, and how much of that audience is willing to hand over their hard-earned money to make sure that your project becomes a reality. And even then, you have the pressure of delivering that project. You may also miscalculate the costs of certain things. You may not have took into the fact that you need some money so you can commit time to this. So you're essentially on a zero wage because all the money that you've asked for the Kickstarter is going to go towards actually producing the project. So there's all those questions that are going to be running through your head, and it is a lot to take on. But if you think you are there, you've got experience, if you've done something like this before, then yes, you might be a bit more confident with it, you know. Maybe you're just an eternal optimistic, which is fantastic. But sometimes we need a little dose of reality, and you have to remember, it is a lot to take on. Another thing people may ask on Kickstarter is, what is the quality level of your product? They don't know where you're producing it from. They don't know whether you're producing... They don't know where you're producing it from, whether you're getting some Chinese factory to make them all and send them over here, whether you're buying the machines yourself and like hand cranking these prints and cutting all the cardboard up yourself and wrapping up all the packs very delicately. People don't know the quality level can vary very drastically that way, where if you have it on the GameCrafter and it's all produced by the same factory every time, customers who are already been on the GameCrafter know what kind of quality they're expecting. They can see the images that you're producing and the strategy that you're putting together, but they know that the quality of the card, the material, is going to be very consistent. And just to add, the GameCrafter does have excellent quality. I have seen many videos of people reviewing them, and there's lots of positivity about it. Obviously, we have our own experience with our TCGs, and in the future, sometime down the line, I would love to create a board game and run it through the GameCrafter. Got my paper back. So to sum up this video and make sure that I haven't missed anything out, right, the GameCrafter offers passive income because everything can be automated for you, which is fantastic because you can spend more time promoting the game on other platforms yourself. You've got consistent quality, you've got a focused audience. You do still have a more expensive product because it is a print to demand, but if you take less of a cut yourself, then the audience is getting something for just a little bit more than what they would have if you took on the risk of bulk buying. An important thing that I've already mentioned in this video about the GameCrafter is that it keeps it a hobby. You know, you want to enjoy this project. You want it for a passion project, then it is a GameCrafter project. Passion project, GameCrafter project. Now with the Kickstarter, you've got a bigger platform, you've got a larger audience, you've got audience with more disposable income, and they have come there to dispose of that income in one way or another, hopefully on one of your projects, which is fantastic because you can get a lot of money that way. It can help the momentum. You can maybe even hire outside help with that kind of money. You know, maybe you could become passive that way. There's a cheat, life hack. The downside is it is an all or nothing funding, so you have to make sure that you get all the funding to make it work, so that is added stress. You've also got bulk ordering, storage and postage to deal with if you're making a game like that on the Kickstarter. That is more effort and more time spent on what you need to do to distribute rather than actually working on the project if it's something like an ongoing project like a TCG. So my verdict is, if you're looking more of like a larger scale business, then maybe go with the Kickstarter. But if it is a hobby, if it is a passion project, then go with the GameCrafter. And that's not to say that two can't be the same, you know. Of course that can be your passion project too, but you have to be willing to accept that some things are just too niche to be big enough to be funded on the Kickstarter. Where with the GameCrafter and a lot of the homemade TCG community, you get that nice network on there as well. It's like being a part of the GameCrafter is being a part of the homemade TCG community in a way, and that's something special that I don't think you get replicated on the Kickstarter. But that's just my opinion. You know, I am one man, this is my opinion. This is my review of the two. I really hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. See you later.